In this question, we're going to talk about transactional trap. This is the engineering with Java platform, and on this platform, we try to cover different use case based interview question. These are not the your traditional lead code style question. These are more like a use case, real life system related questions that you would see in your day to day life, day-to-day engineering life. And yeah, many companies nowadays ask these kind of questions instead of relying on the traditional lead code style question. So yeah, let's tackle this question. So the scenario: consider the following Spring service. We have an order service. We are placing an order. We have a save order. We have a send notification. And if you see, it's marked as at transactional. So this block is transactional, meaning everything commits, and if any of the method has, or any of the operation has the issue, it will be rolled back. Then there is a save order method which has the another transaction on them. You would see, you would think that this is the separate transaction, or there's like a new transaction that is going to be created for this. And then there is a send notification method, and we are for this problem we are sending the or we are throwing the runtime exception. So the overall context is like placing order, we save the order, we send the notification, and then save order has like a transaction block on it, and then the send notification. For this problem we are throwing the runtime exception. Now the question is, so first of all, assumption is that is a relational database, no custom rollback rules, Spring default transaction configuration, straightforward. What happens when place order is invoked? So if somebody comes and calls the place order, some client comes and then calls the place order, what will happen? So if you see here, we are calling save order goes here, we insert the record to the database, then there is send notification, we got the exception, and yeah, and it blows up. It says choose one option. What happens? The order is saved, the transaction commits, and notification fails. The order is not persisted because transaction rolls back, and then no transaction is created at all, and then application fails at a startup. I don't think C and D is correct, because application fails at startup is wrong. No transaction is created at all, that's also wrong. The transaction is created when we are using the add transaction notification. Now the choice is between A and B. Let's investigate the A. The order is saved, transaction commits, and notification fails, which means when we are calling the place order, save order here, and save order has its own transaction block. So because of its own transaction block, it may be having its own kind of separate transaction block, which is trying to persist the data into database, and it doesn't matter what happens to the with the send notification, because it has its own transaction block. The B is saying that order is not persisted because transaction rolls back. Now let's see that, which means if the send notification is failing, even though save order has its own transaction block, it is still going to be rolled back because of it's the main place order method. So the answer here is B, that the save order is not persisted. Now let's understand why. We would think that the save order has its own transaction block, and since it has own transaction, it will have its own transaction start, operation of the DB like insert and then commit. But that's not what is going to happen in this service method. Why? Because if you see, the save order is being called inside the same class place order. Whenever we have like a new transaction created in the same class, basically we are bypassing the Spring proxy layer that identifies the transaction. If it doesn't make sense, let's go through the explanation. The place order is annotated with a transaction block, so single transaction is started. That's pretty straightforward. Save order is called within the same class, so its own transaction annotation does not create a new transaction. That's what I was trying to say. Like if you're in the same class trying to call the method that has transaction on it, it doesn't get invoked with the new transaction, because the because of like the proxy that identifies the transaction basically is bypassed in the same class. It only get intercepted when it's like making the class from the separate class. Then we have the send notification, which is throwing the purposely runtime exception, and because of this exception we are not handling that exception. So our main method also faces exception, and then the whole save order is kind of rollback, because that's our main transactional block, and because of that the order does not get persisted. So Spring uses proxy-based AOP, aspect-oriented programming. So self-invocation basically bypasses that proxy. So it's not able to identify the transactional annotation, and thus the inner annotation just gets ignored. And that's the reason the answer B is correct. Like order is not getting persisted here, even though you will see that also has like its own transaction block. Next question: what if send notification is moved to the Spring bin? So we create like a new service here. We have the send notification, but then if you again read through this setup, send notification will fail. Again, the place order will be revoked, and yeah, the transaction will be reverted. So it doesn't solve anything here. Just that placing somewhere the problem somewhere else, and still going to throw the exception. The main transaction block still going to roll back. So place order is still annotated with the transactional notification service still sending the error. It is inside the same thread, and the transaction interceptor sees the unchecked exception rollback, and transaction rollbacks when the place order exits. Sorry. So yeah, the order is not persisted. And then this is transaction boundaries are generally defined by the caller and not the callee. When would it not roll back? So if we are trying to catch the exception and we are swallowing it, so there is no exception thrown, we don't have any exception on the save order method, and we end up basically saving it in database. No exception. The second is if send notification runs in a new transaction. So we can have like a transaction propagation requires new. This is going to create the new transaction for the send notification. So if the inner transaction rollbacks, outer transaction can still commit. So it's kind of like you have the some isolation there. So even if the send notification is failing, since it has its new transaction, we don't impact the caller level transaction. Other thing we can do is like we can also make the send notification async, so that doesn't serve by the same thread that runs the transaction. It is served by different threads, so we are basically have the isolation there. And generally the recommendation is that like notification, HTTP calls, Kafka publisher call, all this should be not be part of the DB transaction, because these are not really the DB operation that we are doing, so it shouldn't like coupled together. Instead we can fall back to outbox pattern, or like event driven architecture or retries instead. So yeah, I mean we can discuss more about the outbox pattern, but I think that will make this video longer than what it needs the time for. But yeah, I just want to touch that we can use outbox pattern here. And that's it for this question. So if you like this question and want to spend more time reading through it, you can visit the Engineering Java. This platform has more than 66 plus questions. You can visit all these by visiting the interview question here. It is maintained in this table. We have currently 66 questions. There are multiple pages here, so scroll through them, all these questions, and try to read through them. I think this will help you preparing for interview, or in general also your day-to-day engineering work. Some of the questions are paid, so if you think that spending little money because subscription is cheap. If it's a um, if you think you can spend some money on this, that would be great. If not, there are a few free questions as well, so you can go through them. Apart from that, I also tend to post new videos on Engineering with Java YouTube channel. So please subscribe to that. All the videos will be there as I get more time to cover these interview questions. So subscribe to the channel, and um, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.